to verify if someone was pretending to be a zombie. Holding a crossbow at the bridgehead, he didn't aim at the zombie's head but shot an arrow through the zombie's thigh. The shot zombie's movement remained unaffected, indicating it was a real zombie, followed by a second one. Clearly, these deviants were mixed among them. Magna and Yumiko come out with their weapons. The two zombies behind them sensed the danger and immediately turned around. Apparently they were Skinners disguised as zombies. Michonne had already blocked their escape route. The skin wearer near Michonne also stopped his disguise and rushed up with his knife. Seeing all his companions slain, the last flayer fell to his knees. Daryl took a moment to observe but refrained from making a move because he had an intuition that there was a woman beneath the mask. Daryl pulled off the mask and saw that it was a 16 or 17-year-old child. She trembled in fear, pleading Daryl not to kill her. In truth, regardless of what the woman said, Michonne wouldn't believe her words. The girl was genuinely scared. She had witnessed the formidable combat skills of these people. At this time, another group of zombies came from the distance. Daryl decided to bring the woman back for questioning, hoping to extract information about the organization behind her. An hour later, they arrived back at the hilltop with the woman. The residents rushed out to greet them, having been gone for nearly 2 days. Only soon their looks froze, for the body of Jesus was carried on the back of a horse. No one could believe that Jesus, so skilled, had died. The leader who had always been gentle met such a sudden end, spreading grief throughout the hilltop. Daryl prepared to take the girl to the basement and lock her up, followed by the indignant residents. Most of them wanted a statement for Jesus. Inside the basement, Henry was also locked up, for his first night of drinking in trouble, and he was locked up for reflection. In this moment, he heard Daryl's voice. Then the woman was pressed into a chair, but no matter what Michonne asked, the woman insisted that they had killed all her companions and that they had no names. The reason they're in the zombie is because they think zombies are the dominant force in the world. Seeing that they couldn't get anything out of it no matter how hard they asked, they went out, but they didn't believe a word the woman said, so they had to find another time to ask. In the medical room, Eugene's dislocated knee received treatment, and Rosita stayed by his side. Rosita initially wanted to pour some water for Eugene, but he grabbed her hand. Eugene gazed at her affectionately and said, "When I was hiding in the barn, I was so afraid that you wouldn't make it through. I've been worried about you every minute, every second. I was scared that this time, I might not come back. I can't tell you in person that I like you. I'm tired of waiting. I genuinely want to be with you." Before Eugene could finish, Rosita pulled away and rushed towards the door. Once outside, Rosita began to vomit, and Siddiq followed her out to check on her. Eugene's heart sank instantly. Siddiq intended to advise Rosita to undergo a checkup, but what Rosita said next shocked everyone.
When we were having fun before Gabriel?
Yes, you heard it right. Before she got together with Gabriel, Rosita had a romantic involvement with Siddiq, and now she's pregnant with Siddiq's child. Eugene inside naturally overheard, along with the sound of his heart shattering. After a while, Michonne decided to take the group back to the Alexandria safe zone. They need to share the information about the peelers with everyone as soon as possible or they will be in danger out there. The loss of Jesus hit Aaron hard. Now he understood Michonne's decisions. The only way to be safe is to stay within the walls. He couldn't imagine what would happen to his daughter if he died. From then on, Aaron began to support Michonne. At twilight, the hilltop residents gathered at the graveyard to bid Jesus their final farewell. Everyone's mood was heavy. Michonne and Daryl nodded their goodbyes. They were returning to Alexandria's safe zone. Daryl, lost in thought, recalled his first encounter with Jesus, and the moments through which he got to know the kingdom. All thanks to Jesus. All of this was the doings of the Whisperers. Daryl revisited the cell where the girl was held. She seemed panicked upon seeing him.
"Do you want to die? Is that it?" "And they're ready to string you up right now. The people up there just buried a good man."
Daryl, what's your problem?
Quiet! All I gotta do is drag your ass up them steps. How many?
10! There were 10 of us!
The girl said that there were about 10 of them, wearing masks to blend in with the walker herds. They didn't have a settlement. Places like yours will eventually fall. Only their methods are the way of nature. The girl was scared this time. She hurriedly retorted, "Sooner or later, we'll kill you. Isn't that how this world is? It's either you die or we perish. Living people nowadays are a threat." Daryl's heart softened again. She was just a child after all. There was something familiar about the way the girl was looking at him. Wasn't it his childhood self living in an environment of domestic abuse? Daryl silently observed her for a moment before locking the door. Daryl warns Henry not to act like a fool and think that everything in the world is good, and to come out when he doesn't look like a fool. Henry took the admonishment without getting angry. He was just a bit puzzled about why they treated the young girl that way. At that moment, a thank you came from the next cell. It was the girl who thanked him for his help. Henry had a simple nature, seeing only the surface of things. He didn't think about the fact that these men had killed Jesus. He just knew that the girl was miserable. The two struck up a conversation in the cell. Daryl eavesdropped from outside. Knowing that the information he had coerced might not be reliable, it might be possible to get some useful information that way. The evening had set in, and Enid stood on the wall, filled with worry. Jesus and the others had returned, but Alden and Luke were still out searching. Little did they know, the moment those two unlucky souls entered the woods, they saw a walker standing still. It was odd, but they decided to take it down. Yet, more walkers emerged around them, unnaturally fixated on them. What was going on? Why were the walkers behaving this way? When they turned their heads, the zombie came towards them.
Trail ends here.
This is the man with the baseball bat who enslaved the survivors of the area and at one point overwhelmed Rick's team. Thankfully, the combined efforts of all the communities eventually overcame the threat of the saviors.
We're done. It's over.
Though Negan had his throat slit by Rick, he survived. However, he became a prisoner, and if all went as planned, Negan would spend the rest of his life locked away. After a year in prison, Negan was so disillusioned that he couldn't stand the thought of spending his life in jail that he got down on his knees and begged Maggie to kill him. Negan was a far cry from his former dominant self. Ultimately, Maggie decided to let Negan live in agony. And so, 6 years flew by, during which many children grew up. Out of humanitarianism, a window was opened in Negan's cell to let in some fresh air. Every week, Gabriel would come to help Negan with his penance. The results were limited, but Negan cooperated. At least the monotonous prison life had a hint of change. Negan's mindset wasn't as desolate as it was a few years ago. Apart from watching the changes in Alexandria's safe zone through his window every day, what Negan looked forward to the most was someone's visit Judith. Whenever Judith was upset or had a piece of homework she couldn't do, she'd come out on the steps and say it out loud. Not only did Negan help Judith with her maths problems, but he also tried to cheer her up. Over time, the two of them got to know each other better. It had to be said that Rick's pair of children made Negan quite envious. Negan has fantasized many times that if she had a child, she'd have to be like Carl Judith, who's not only smart but also responsible. On this evening, Negan, as usual, was playing baseball to pass the time, but he accidentally threw the ball outside. Negan couldn't help but lament how damn unbearable these days were, with no visible hope for the future. However, Negan noticed that the cell door seemed a bit different tonight. It shook slightly when the wind blew. He guessed that maybe Gabriel had forgotten to lock it when he left during the day. Negan's speculation turned out to be correct. During the day, a messenger from the hilltop had come and shared news of Rosita's injury. Gabriel, upon hearing the news, was deeply troubled and neglected to check the cell door lock. Negan stepped out. After a whole 7 years, he was finally getting out of this confinement. Subsequently, Negan stealthily left the house. When he reached the crossroads, he listened to the sounds outside while contemplating where to go next. Instead of fleeing immediately, he observed the current state of Alexandria's safe zone. The changes were indeed refreshing, making it hard to believe this was the same community from before. Negan then arrived at the garden and plucked a tomato to eat. With his stomach full, Negan grabbed a shovel and headed for Rick's house. Michonne was still at the hilltop, and she wouldn't have expected Negan to escape. Negan entered a room. It was a child's room, but it was empty. There was a painting on the wall depicting Rick's family. This was most likely Judith's room. Michonne must have left the siblings in the care of someone else. Negan considered Judith as his own daughter. Since nobody was around, Negan decided to leave. He took a compass from the bedside table as a memento. He tossed the tool out before starting to climb, but then a childish voice interrupted Negan. The lovely Judith had arrived and was pointing a gun at him.
I'm not going back. You're not gonna shoot me, kid. So you just pull that trigger if that's what you're gonna do, little lady.
Yeah, I will.
How about this?
How about no?
You know, when your mom and dad, they told me I was gonna be good for something, that I would, when they locked me up, help people see that things could change. For everybody but me. And they did. Holy shit, did they ever. I mean, look around. Alexandria is a goddamn wonderland. But my part, it's just 4 walls and a bedpan.
Rules are rules. My mom decides, not me.
But you can. You're not letting me go. You know, it's just like when we have our little chats together. You're just not seeing me leave.
You know, there's nothing out there for you. For anyone.
You know me better than anyone's known me in a very long time. You know me. So, I promise you, I promise that I'm not going to hurt anyone. I promise you I won't hurt them. Even if they try to hurt me, that I'm not going to hurt anyone. I gotta go. Thank you.
Hey,
You want it back?
were you in my room?
Yeah.
Keep it. It'll help you find your way. But if I see you again, I'll shoot.
And so, Judith watched the old friend leave. Negan left the Alexandria safe zone with a shovel and some fruit. The first rays of morning sunlight illuminated Negan's face, giving him a taste of freedom once again. How wonderful! Next, Negan headed towards the direction of Salvation Hall, his only home. The prison's torments from the past years had long worn down Negan's spirit. Now he was simply going back to take a look, with no intentions of making a comeback. Moreover, Negan's body was not what it used to be. Killing a zombie left him catching his breath for a while. He was about to take a break when the zombie in the car suddenly grabbed Negan. Negan instinctively moved back, accidentally pulling the zombie down, and it fell onto his backpack. Although he managed to deal with the zombie in the end, Negan's cucumber and tomatoes he had been carrying were ruined and no longer edible. Embarking on the long journey ahead, hunger forced Negan to endure, and when thirsty, he drank water from the river. However, this water wasn't clean, and Negan soon experienced diarrhea. At that moment, Negan truly felt the hardships of survival in the present day. An hour later, Negan reached a small town. Passing by a men's clothing store, Negan went inside and smiled with satisfaction, because there were leather jackets here. It seemed that Negan had a special liking for them. Having donned the clothes, Negan walked for another 2 hours until he finally reached his destination. Gazing at this familiar place, Negan had once established his legacy here. With grand aspirations to save humanity, he wanted to shout, "I'm back, Negan!" Negan opened the main door and whistled as he entered. Inside, there were no people kneeling to welcome him, no group of followers surrounding him, only ruin and decay. Spiderwebs were everywhere. Though he was prepared for it, it still saddened him to witness it. After all, this place was his home, where his dreams had taken root. Negan then smashes through a wall, which hides a motorbike and a large amount of food. These were things he had left behind, but unfortunately, the food had been consumed by rats. With a sense of disappointment, Negan aimlessly wandered through every corner of Salvation Hall. He had once believed that people were the most crucial resource in the apocalypse, yet now only he remained, without supplies, without protective measures. Salvation Hall was no longer suitable for survival. In this moment, Negan suddenly lost his sense of purpose, not knowing what to do or where to go. Then Negan felt the compass in his pocket. Looking at Judith's name on it, he suddenly missed that little one. Thankfully, the motorcycle was still functional, sparing him from walking. Negan rode the bike towards Alexandria's safe zone. At that moment, a little girl appeared ahead of Negan on the road, holding a gun. Seeing the motorcycle, she fired directly at it. The shot hit the bike's wheel, causing Negan to crash and fall to the ground.
Alright, slow down, kid.
A lot of people are out looking for you.
I know you said you'd shoot, but you sure as shit did.
Language! I told you there was nothing out there.
Damn.
I'm a kid, asshole.
What can I say? I like to swear in front of my friends. Thanks for letting me borrow that.
You're going back to Alexandria?
Yep.
Why?
Because you were right.
So you go back. Then what?
I will let you know when I know.
That night, in the Hilltop's dungeon, Daryl eavesdropped outside the cell to learn about the Whisperer's origins. This tactic proved effective as the two young individuals quickly established rapport through their conversation. From their chat, Daryl gathered that the girl's name was Lydia. Her family had joined a survival group after the outbreak of the zombie virus. Her mother had been protective and kind, but over time, the ugliness of human nature had emerged. Lydia's mother started killing to protect her, gradually becoming twisted. As the two of them talked, the sun came up. The fool Henry started opening up to Lydia about the kingdom. Just as Henry was speaking, Daryl opened the cell door and dragged him out, angrily reprimanding Henry. Daryl exclaimed, "What the hell is wrong with you? Sharing kingdom secrets with her? What if she's got accomplices? You want to get people there killed?" Only then did Henry realize this guy had been eavesdropping. Daryl didn't deny it, stating, "A few of us took turns listening, just to find out what that girl was saying to you. Despite using you, it's been effective." Henry provocatively retorted that Lydia was a good person, just twisted outside the, and he called Daryl a jerk, telling him to go find out for himself. He wouldn't let them use him anymore. With that, Henry stormed off angrily. Meanwhile, outside, Tara led a small team in search of Luke and Alden.